I am Meredith Hirsch, and this is Working Healthcare. Get ready because this one is high energy. Welcome into my world because this is the part of the day before I roll into the office, hit record for podcast life, step into a classroom, jump on a committee meeting, or do one of the many other jobs that I swear I did not apply for, but somehow I enjoy and I still have. Today's guest is my personal trainer, Carolina Romero. And I know what you're thinking. Meredith, what does a trainer have to do with healthcare? Everything. Because Carolina is actually in healthcare, not the sick care insurance companies love to pay for after the damage is done, or at least they deny after the damage is done. She's wicked smart too. She started in finance. She's a Division I college athlete. Then she looked at corporate life and said, no thanks, and built her very own business, Silver Strong Fitness. Carolina is also a millennial, which means we obviously had to talk about the generational differences. She makes some bold claims like millennials paved the way for everyone after them, and we should be all sending them thank you notes. We get into what drives both of us and what it really takes to own a business and why it can be all-consuming and it's still the best decision we both made. You might already know her as Fit Golfer Girl on Instagram and YouTube. She has more than 265,000 followers across both platforms. And yes, she earned every single one of them. And we wrap up with a lightning round that's as sharp and fierce as Carolina herself. Stick with me because by the end, you'll feel like you just played a full round of golf. No cart, no shortcuts. Carolina Romero, welcome to Working Healthcare.
Hi, Meredith. Thank you so much for having me.
So this is fun for me because I usually see you early in the morning to work out. And when I told Mercy, our head of marketing, that I wanted to have you on the podcast and I invited you, she said, how is Carolina in healthcare? Because everybody knows two people in my office. Richard, the guy who cuts my hair, and Carolina, because I see you 3 times a week.
That's right. It's like we're close. We're tight.
Exactly. So Carolina said this, or Richard thinks this. So people always get very excited when Carolina has pearls of wisdom.
I love it. I hope they've been useful.
They have been. So I said, I need to have Carolina on the podcast because it is about working healthcare. And Carolina does work in healthcare. And yeah, you started in finance, and I say you work in healthcare. Why did you leave finance, and what did you do, and how did you end up in what I call healthcare?
Yeah, so when I graduated college, I had the dream job for everybody. I worked in finance for Goldman Sachs in New York, and I thought it was gonna be amazing. I interned there when I was a junior in high school, in college, and of course everybody, they give you the princess treatment. It's amazing, and then 6 months into working, I was like, is this it? Like, I remember sitting in my cubicle and being like, so this is it. Like, I'm going to be sitting here for the next 40 years of my life.
And you're active because obviously you do personal training now, but you are a Division I college athlete. So you've always been active your whole life. I can't imagine you sitting in a cubicle.
Believe it or not, I feel like sitting in a cubicle actually helped fuel my love for fitness. When you have a job like that, you don't really have much of a life. I was a single girl, had just moved from Florida to New York, New Jersey, and all I had was my job. So I needed kind of to find some hobbies, and then fitness became one of those things. I started going to the gym. It all started with classes, and then I just got really into it, and I became friends with all the people at the on-site gym that we had at the Goldman Sachs building, and they were great. They taught me so much. They mentored me, and then whenever I told them that I wanted to make the switch, they really were there for me, and they helped me out. They gave me good advice, and those, I would say, were the first mentors in my switch of careers. And I probably wouldn't have done it without their support and their encouragement.
Yeah, I brought you into my life. You actually were training and working out with my husband, and I have a terrible left knee. I need a total knee replacement. And you're like, Meredith, you need to carve out time because eventually you need to get it. But this was several years ago when I went to the orthopedic surgeon who said to me, listen, Meredith, you're married to the master injector. Mark can inject it as much as you need. You cannot destroy your knee any more than it is. You're too young for knee replacement surgery. Knee replacements last 8 to 15 years, 15 if you're lucky. I'm going with 8 for you, Meredith. And, you need to start to build the muscle around your knee so you're not in pain. And that's when I called you, because to put me in physical therapy, I don't feel like I'm working out unless I'm sweating. So I said, Carolina, what do you know about rehabbing a knee? So how do you work in the intersection of medicine and rehab and helping people get better, I guess, right? Because we're all about health insurance, which I feel like is sick care. This, what you do, is health care.
Yeah. I have a lot of clients like you that come to me in pain. They can no longer do the things that they love because they're in pain. And, they tried physical therapy. It didn't work in the past. And I'm here to kind of break that gap, I'm not a physical therapist. I am not a doctor of physical therapy, but I can help you exercise in a way that can possibly really help you. A lot of people, I feel like, are, really disillusioned with physical therapy and the way that it runs. And when you work one-on-one with me, I'm able to give you one-on-one attention and teach you exactly how to do some of the exercises that you get taught in physical therapy so that you get so much more out of it. And that's what I tell people. It's like, I'm sure you've done bridges. I'm sure you've done clams. I'm sure you've done all of these weird things, but let's do them right this time. Mm-hmm. Let's do it together, one at a time. Let's make sure that you feel in the right spot. Let's make sure that you're using the correct muscles. And that's stuff that sometimes you don't really get in healthcare or sick care, like you say it, because there's just that churning machine of patients. But when you're with me, granted at a premium, you get my one-on-one undivided attention. And then we can really work on the things that you need to work on to make you feel better.
Yeah, and not even that. It's schlepping or going a long distance to drive to physical therapy. And then the first place I went to, I think the average age was much older than I am.
Yeah.
I don't want to insult anybody, but it was much older, and they're doing things at a very different pace. I want to make sure that I set aside time, and this is what I do, and I want to focus on it. And now I'm about, I think, 4 years out, and I still can't Latin dance. That would be fun. I can't ski because I can't do the lateral movements, but I can walk from here to kingdom come. I mean, yep. Man, I do really heavy hip thrusts, don't I?
That's right. You should see her. You should see her go at it. That's true.
So making that switch, did you need to have any type of training or any type of licensing to be able to do physical training or fitness training?
You don't need to have a college degree in the subject. Obviously, my college degree is in finance and economics, but you do need to have a personal training certificate. And there's several organizations that offer those. And, some of them require quite a bit of studying. I decided to do mine while I was still in finance. To get my certificate, and then a couple other certificates because I knew exactly what I wanted to come to Florida to do. So by the way, we haven't really talked about this, but my plan was to leave New York and come to Florida to train old people. What a perfect place for it, right? And, so I make sure I got my personal training certificate. And on top of that, I kind of really used the help of my friends that were already in the industry to just, they mentored me. They showed me how to write programs. I got a part-time job at a gym during the weekends, just doing front desk work and stuff like that, just to get my feet in the industry. It's like every time you're do a career change, you have to start from the bottom, and I knew that.
Weren't you at Lululemon too?
Oh, yeah, but that was later on.
Oh, okay.
That was later on, yeah.
I was going to say, I know those discounts are really good.
That's so true. Everything I made got spent, so yeah. But, it was hard to start from the bottom again. But it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it because it put me in the right path or in a better path. I just couldn't imagine sitting at a desk for, 50 hours, 60 hours a day every week. I looked at my bosses. I hope they're not listening to this. And the people that, I worked with. And I was just this is not the life that I want, So it's now or never. Either I leave now while I'm still, while the money's still not that good. I mean, it was good. The money was good. But, like they call it the golden handcuffs. It's like you start making so much money that you just can't never leave. And I was like, I'm fine. I'll try it now. It's now or never. If it doesn't work out in 5 years, I can always come back and get a job in banking down in Florida, whatever it takes. But it's now or never. And I'm glad I did that. It's like one of the best things I've ever done.
How many years ago?
Oh, that was in 2015.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you're talking 11 years.
ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I have a lot of friends and a lot of our listeners are physicians, and they're always trying to strategize and figure out, can they make that leap too? Not into fitness training, but make that leap from security of getting paid by insurance companies. But there's a huge burden, right? Because you have all of the prior authorizations, all of the referrals, all of the denials that you're dealing with. It's becoming an administrative burden. So your analogy, or I guess this analogy to relate it to you, is it is sitting in a cubicle and punching paper and dealing with all of the administrative craziness in healthcare. And doctors have said, I'm done. I'm just going to do a direct pay model. That's essentially what you're doing right now. You don't take insurance. You're doing a direct pay model. Must have been scary.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, going from a guaranteed paycheck that's pretty freaking good and the stability, the health insurance, it was terrifying. Luckily, I was in a position where I was like 25 years old. I was young, no kids. I understand that for some people it's not that simple. But for me, it was definitely a big leap of faith. It was terrifying. And especially moving to a different state without really having a job, just showing up here and start applying for jobs. I tried to apply for jobs like 6 months in advance, and people are like, well, we're looking to hire now, not in 6 months, especially for an entry-level position like what I would have started in. So it was scary, but it was worth it. I feel like it comes a point when it becomes like a matter of survival. It's like, I need to make this work. Like, this was my last resort. This is what I supposedly love. If I cannot make this work, then it's going back to what I hate. And I couldn't let that happen.
So I actually want to pivot and talk about something that you and I talk about often when we're working out. So if anybody ever wants to know, hey, I wonder what Meredith does in her free time, I hang out with Carolina and we talk about millennials. So you have a huge, strong work ethic. I respect you highly. You get it done. You show up. I mean, you train at what's your earliest training time? 5:30?
Yeah, 5.
And you're
sometimes.
there every single time. And I know that because you're either training my husband or you come and you train with me. And so I know. And I think you've told me once at the last minute you were sick in 4 years, which is pretty damn impressive. But you have a strong work ethic. You're first generation, you're Colombian, and even though you were born in America, your parents are Colombian. What do you attribute the difference in the work ethic that you have to maybe some of your peers, or maybe I'm giving them a bad rap?
Well, you know what? I would say, I was a student athlete. I was an athlete, and I was only an athlete in golf, which is not a sport that gives you immediate gratification, rarely ever. So in golf, you get beaten, and you just have to keep going and show up and not stop. So I was very used to continue to work through hardship and loss. And, I think like golf, obviously playing sports definitely gives you that discipline. I could say, it's from my parents, it's the work ethic. I've just always been like this. But the real reason and the real motivator is that it's my business. It's for myself. You know what I mean? I feel like the incentive is for me. Whatever I accomplish is for me. Whatever I don't accomplish is also something I missed out on. So I find it that I need, since this is my business and this is my life and this is my money and this is, my reputation in the industry, this is for me. So that's my incentive to do it for myself.
So do you think it would be different if you were still in finance working for somebody else?
100%.
Did you call out a lot then?
No, I didn't because, they had unlimited sick days, which is a scam to get you to never take sick days. No, I didn't call out then. We were just starting to implement work from home stuff. So even if you were sick, you're expected to log in. But it's just different. It's different when you work for yourself. It's different when everything that you're accomplishing is for you rather than for somebody else. And I find that is one of the things that other generations get wrong about millennials. It's like we lack incentives. Millennials didn't have enough incentives. And then our priorities and our desires changed for that reason. And then everybody thought we were lazy. And I was like, what do you want me to just kill myself working for mediocre pay and just do it happily like previous generations did? It's like the previous generations did that, but they got rewarded. We didn't. So we changed our priorities.
Yeah, I actually like that. Well, you haven't brought that up while we were training. I wish you would have. But I like that thought process. I haven't thought about it in that way about the incentives. I have, but I didn't relate it specifically to this millennial generation. And looking back, we provide a lot of incentives within our practice. We do it based on scheduling appointments. We do it based on let's have no walkouts. We'll do it based on Google reviews that we may receive. So there are a myriad of incentives for our team. And I will tell you, yes, the group that is driven the most by incentives are the millennials on my team. But they're working to spend. And I will tell you that they want that incentive so they can get their nails done, or that they can do something fun for themselves, have extra money to go to Starbucks. They like the Starbucks or the Dunkin' Donuts gift cards. Something interesting I'm struggling with is the generation after you, the Zoomers. They're not very incentive-based, at least the ones, and my sample size is less than 30, so it's probably not very good, but if you give them a $25 gift card that they earn, they're like, what? I don't want that. Like, what do you, really? What's that going to do for me? And then down the street, literally where they can walk in my same complex, my shopping complex, they'll order Uber Eats.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And they're not making that much money.
I get it.
What do you think separates your generation from the ones behind you, the Zoomers?
I think it's the expectation. We were taught by our parents, go to college, get your education. You're done with college, go get a master's degree. You're going to get a cushy corporate job. You're going to stay with that company forever. Everything's going to be all right. You're going to be able to put your kids through college. And then we did that. We went to college. We got our master's degrees. And then we ended up working at Starbucks. We did everything we were told to do. And it didn't work out for us. So we had this set of expectations and this set of incentives that fell apart in front of us. So instead of wanting that path for us, which seemed unattainable, we kind of took a different route. It's like, well, I'm never going to be, I'm never going to be able to have some of the things that my parents have. Because as you know, millennials are the first generation to be worse off than their parents in their life. So how can I make my life a little less miserable? Whether it's, I may never be able to afford a home. I'm not speaking for myself, but I'm saying a lot of millennials, can't afford to own a home. So they can afford to eat Starbucks every day and it makes their life a little bit happier. So I would say the difference between millennials and Gen Z is that they expected things to suck while we didn't. We were promised a wonderful, bright future and it just didn't work out for us that way. But Gen Zs are coming in and they know exactly how it's going to work out for them because they see us.
Yeah, they know it's going to suck because they also went through COVID.
Exactly.
And they also went through and experienced, besides the pandemic, they experienced what the 2008 financial crisis was, right? They were born or were very, very young when a lot of their parents may have lost their jobs.
That's true. And I was just entering the workforce when that happened, So that amazing corporate job that I was about to take and, climbed the corporate ladder at Goldman Sachs. I mean, granted, I took a different route, but for a lot of people, that turned out not to be the same. You get laid off. Companies don't really care about you like they care about Gen Xers or boomers, who made their career their whole personality. And we talk about this all the time. It's like, our career is not our whole personality because our career is giving us a paycheck, but not necessarily giving us, the things that we need to have a fulfilling life. So we just change our priorities. And you know what? I know people say we're lazy and we don't love to work and that we're entitled and blah, blah, blah. I'm really proud of us. I'm really proud of us because we took a really shitty situation and changed the future. We paved the way for other generations to look up for themselves and stand up for themselves and, demand work-life balance and demand mental health, which is something that previous generations never did. A lot of boomers and Gen Xers just took it and lived miserable lives with, beautiful homes that they bought for $30,000 that are now worth $7 million. But, where's that mental health? And then, I was obviously a very taboo topic back in the day. We brought it into the spotlight. Mm-hmm. My friends, we talk about our therapy, what medications are we on, all stuff like that is so transparent. And Gen Zers get to enjoy that now. They get to take advantage of our openness and then
my
carry
son
it.
has like 135 people who follow him. On his phone. I'm like, really? Doesn't that like create FOMO? Do you even know who's following you? He's like, no, they know how to reach me if they want to reach me. I said, it is so transparent. I mean, 100%. You and I grew up in different worlds.
100%. It was like therapy, mental health, medication. That was all so frowned upon for your generation, the generation before. You had to suffer in silence and pretend that everything was okay. We suffer together. Well, actually, we don't suffer. We have this collective experience that we feed off. And it makes things so much more bearable. Once again, for some millennials, owning a home is never going to be possible. But at least, we have that community and that vulnerability and that openness that, it's like, if we're the ones talking about it, how are you going to use it against us?
And you walked away from the safety and you said, to heck with that. I want to be happy in life. I want to work for myself. You didn't initially work for yourself. You worked for a gym, but you actually made that step to start your own fitness company, brand. Yeah. You developed yourself. How did you do that?
Well, I knew what I wanted. So I had a job at a business and at a country club. And I knew that was just a stepping stone for me. I wasn't going to be somebody's, especially in a business like this. I'm sure there's other businesses like that too, where when you're working for somebody else, you're totally getting screwed. As a personal trainer working for a gym or working for somebody else, you're maybe getting half of the cost of the session, if not less.
But you're outlaying so much, Carolina, right? You're putting in much more risk, but the reward is so great.
But here's the thing, Meredith. The client doesn't form a relationship with the gym. It forms a relationship with the person, And when a personal trainer leaves a business, they go with the client. They're not in love with the machine or the location. Like if a client had to drive 5 extra minutes to meet me at another gym, they would do it. And I feel like this happens in the personal training business a lot. You get a book by working for somebody else and then you leave. Is it moral? Is it ethic? Maybe not. I'm sure it happens a lot with doctors too. Mm-hmm. We've talked about, some non-compete agreements and stuff like that, and how sometimes they're just there to kind of scare you. Sometimes they're not really enforceable in some states. But still, the personal relationship is built with the client and the trainer and the patient and the doctor, not the practice.
I mean, I rebranded our company from Advanced Rheumatology Center. That couldn't even be said well anyway. People were like, what? Dermatology? I'm like, Advanced Rheumatology Center, to the Hirsch Center. And why? Because you're right. People go to the doctor. It's very easy to remember the Hirsch Center because who are you seeing? Dr. Mark Hirsch. Now, we have other doctors and providers who are a part of the practice. But so this is a little advertising promo for everybody listening. Yeah, you want to make sure what you name it is affiliated with you in some capacity. And you've done an amazing job with that on social media. I mean, I looked up the number of followers that you have recently. I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. You have over 250,000 followers on Instagram, and you have like 17,000 YouTube subscribers, and your handle is Fit Golfer Girl. How were you able to build up such an amazing following and brand, and how did that help you, or did it even help you go independent so you didn't have to work at the gym anymore?
Yeah, so I started Fit Golfer Girl, kind of like it was a little bit of an existential crisis. You know, the fitness industry is very looks based, and granted, I'm young now, and you know, I look fit.
Anybody
and all
who
that.
watches us on YouTube will see, yes, you're a little hot tamale.
But anyways, you know, there's always going to be a hotter, fitter trainer coming next, you know, tomorrow. And then when I'm 40 and 50 and 60, I needed to make sure that I would establish myself as an expert in my field. You know, and as a former golfer, I found a big opportunity, especially here in Florida. I told you I wanted to initially work with seniors. And I realized that a lot of my seniors were also golfers. So I'm like, well, there's a big opportunity. This was in 2017 before there were even videos on Instagram. But social media was definitely already a thing. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to establish myself as an expert in this industry by being the one putting content out since nobody else is doing it. It's like, I am sure that there's a lot of veteran trainers in the golf fitness space that know so much more than I do. Remember, at this point, I was very new to the industry. I was definitely very green, but I didn't care. I was like, I'm the only one putting it out there. So I'm going to start making content and putting YouTube videos out. And I dedicated myself to putting one YouTube video out a week, every week in the year 2017. And that was absolutely amazing for my brand. You know, it was like, discoverability was so different back then, but it didn't matter. You know, I was the only person doing it. So once again, you start building a name for yourself. You start building a reputation. Did it actually help me get one-on-one clients in person? No. But it started to get me in front of people in the industry. It started to get me recognition and respect from other peers. And that went a long way, you know, to the point where now, you know, I've gotten one of the top 50 best fitness trainers in America for golf twice, you know, for like 2 years in a row, which is huge. And now that has, you know, converted into in-person clients for me. So it was a big investment on time and effort, not necessarily in terms of clients right away, but now it's paying off.
And what about brand ambassadorship? Because I know, listen, you've traveled. You're like, hey, Meredith, I'm going to be away for these 10 days. I'm going to Africa. Like, oh, really? You're like, yeah, with a sponsor. And so it helped you in that capacity as well. Yeah. Did that help transition to clients, or is that just a paid opportunity? But how did that work for you in your business?
Yeah, you know, so as a result of being somebody putting out useful content on social media, I got so many followers, and I kind of accidentally became a little bit of an influencer. And of course, I jumped at the opportunity. So I got tons of opportunity to travel the world. I've been to China, South Africa, doing stuff for golf, not necessarily golf fitness. But, you know, how could I pass that up? You know, and it also turned out into a second source of income for me, the influencer side, for golf space stuff or travel stuff, you know, that kind of stuff, golf clubs, clothing, all kinds of brand deals, what we call it. And, you know, that became a second source of revenue for me on top of the golf training or the just senior training in general. So that was really helpful.
So I spoke this past year at the Florida Society of Rheumatology on reputation management. And I've said, I say this all of the time, it doesn't matter if you want to be on social media. If you are a doctor, you are on social media because people will write reviews about you. You have Yelp reviews, you have Google reviews, you have health grade reviews, everything, right? So they are on social media. For somebody who's like, oh my God, I don't want to take this on, but they know they need to because I'm telling them they need to. What do you recommend as a first step in creating a positive image on social media? What's a how-to for somebody?
Well, you know, when it comes to like a doctor or a personal trainer, let's say that's not on social media right now, I think number one would be to be a good doctor or trainer. You know what I mean? I think that like your word of mouth speaks for itself. Like if you have, you know, good, happy clients, they're going to refer you to other people. If you provide a really good service for a stranger that then is going to go on, what is it? Good health grades?
Health grades.
And health grades and leave you a great review because they had a personal experience. That's key, number one. You know, it's, you can ask all your patients and clients to go write you great Google reviews and they will do it. But for a random person that just, you know, had an amazing experience and they felt compelled to go leave you a review, that's powerful. So just performing at an excellent level and really providing one-on-one attention, whether it's a client for me or a patient for a doctor, that's going to be the most important thing. Everybody matters. Every session matters. Make people feel comfortable, make people feel seen, make people feel less intimidated if they're intimidated. And I think that's going to be the number one thing. And the second thing would be to just perhaps, if you're willing to put a little more effort, just create some valuable content that, might get other people's eyes onto you, then that's kind of like what I did. I created valuable content. So when people thought golf fitness, they would go to my page and look at it since nobody else was doing it at the time.
And now a lot of people are doing it, or at least not necessarily golf fitness, but certainly fitness, different types of opportunities on social media. You and I have talked about this, but being a part of social media without compromising your morals, your values, what you want to put out versus what people want to see, the consumption of time that it takes, because I do it for working healthcare, so I know it's all consuming. What's your relationship with social media now? How do you do it without compromising your values?
Well, you are absolutely right, Meredith. Social media is very, very demanding, very time-consuming, and sometimes not very good for your mental health. I got to tell you, my feedback from my followers is usually very positive. I don't get a lot of hate or negative comments in the stuff that I post. Obviously, that does happen sometimes, and that's all right. It's expected. Like I told you before, if you don't have haters, then you're doing something wrong. So that in that respect, that has been good. It's more like just the time management, the reaction of, you putting so much time and effort into a post that doesn't do good. And then you have a post that you think is going to be kind of shitty and posting it, and then it does amazing. So the emotional roller coasting is very, very hard. In the last few years, in the last year especially, I have kind of taken a little bit of a step back from posting on social media, and I have actually dedicated myself into growing my personal training business in person. And it was a really hard decision to do because, I've spent so much time building this brand, but I realized that I was just not enjoying it anymore. And it was taking a lot of my time, and it was actually taking away from my time building my in-person business. I think that if people can find a nice balance, that's amazing. And I'm still trying to do that myself. I hope that one day I can actually do both of them successfully. But I did have to take a little bit of a step back. And then when I did that, my in-person business bloomed. And I'm really happy with that decision. It was like killing my child. That's what it felt like. Like abandoning my baby. It was honestly terrible, but I was not getting as much joy from it anymore. As a matter of fact, not only I wasn't getting joy, it made me miserable. It was terrible.
You and I talked about that when I had Barb Nose Insurance.
Yep.
I made the decision very quickly after I had won an award from the Florida Medical Association for helping doctors practice medicine. And somebody had said, you need to go onto social media. And I'm like, no. And I figured when I got kicked off TikTok, which was my claim to fame, probably by an insurance company because I would share all of the denials online. I said, you know what, I'm over this because it wasn't who I was authentically. I wasn't enjoying it. And you're like, end it then. Don't do it.
Yep.
And people had said, well, maybe you should do a podcast, Meredith. You know a lot of people. You're very involved in healthcare. Your background's journalism. Like, check out podcasting. And I'm like, I've never even listened to a podcast.
Yeah, but this is actually perfect for you. You get to be your true authentic self, which I also get to be when I'm training clients, when I'm training you, when I share my passion for what I do and what I love. I bring my own personality, but pretending to be somebody you're not on social media is or anywhere, it's exhausting. It will burn you out. 100%.
It's not Facebook, even though you tell me nobody's on Facebook anymore, Meredith. It's always about Instagram, but it's fake book. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Everyone puts out their best, their lovely life, their 10 out of 10. And you're like, yeah, I didn't even recognize you when I saw you on the street because you don't look like that.
Yeah. And creator burnout is a real thing.
Yeah.
It's anybody that's an influencer or a creator of any sorts will tell you that. It's a brand new career opportunity. I mean, this wasn't a career opportunity for for your kids. Like, they can now be influencers. Like, all kids now want to grow up to be influencers. This was not a career thing for me. It wasn't even an imaginable thing that I could become an influencer. But it's so glamorous. And like I said, you're showing the best of the best, and you get all these paid opportunities to do all these cool things. But in reality, it's really hard.
You live and breathe the machine. I want to go back to you making that decision to no longer work for somebody else, not for the gym, go out on your own. You took this brand that you have, you monetized it, and you were able to segue into working for yourself, where you called out once in 4 years. So congrats to that, Carolina. I love and totally agree with you. You need to have skin in the game. You need to have some type of ownership. It's what drives you to your reputation, right? That's important to you. It drives you to be the best that you can be. And I think that the generations would be on a level playing field if we all just gave them a business. No, if they all had to buy into a business. You can't give a business. So what was that? What happened in your life? What did you have to attain to say, I'm doing it all on my own now?
Well, it's amazing when being your own boss is really amazing. Granted, you interview all these super successful executives that have huge companies that do all this amazing stuff. For me, like a selfish millennial I suppose, I am my own boss. I dictate everything in my life. I can decide how much I make or how much I don't make. I decide what deals I take and what deals I don't take. It is a really amazing position to be in that place.
But when you first started, did you just have to take every deal?
Yep, every deal, and every shitty client. And it sucks. You get underpaid. You undervalue yourself just because you're desperate and you feel like you need to take clients. I think that probably happens to any trainer or any business owner at the beginning when they're just kind of desperate for business.
Doctors. I mean, we took many more insurances than we do now. We took we took every disease type, right? We actually now prioritize and only see certain types of conditions. We only take certain types of insurances. You're able to do that. But you're right. At the beginning when we started, we were actually seeing people for free because we were still trying to get onto health plans.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah, so I feel like it must be a common thing. Maybe it's a stepping stone in building a business is to just you have to start at the bottom and make bad decisions and undervalue yourself, and then start to notice that there's opportunities for you to be better and have standards. And then when you actually adhere to those standards, that's the key. It's like, you start to realize like, maybe I'm better than this. And then when you're like, well, I'm going to act like I'm better than this. And then you start kind of like making better decisions for yourself and saying no to bad clients and saying no to bad insurance companies. And then it all of a sudden starts to build up. And this is only possible if you're also providing really good value to your clients and to your patients, etc.
How do you figure out what to charge?
That's honestly a great question. And I find it that the reason that I know how much to charge is because me and the people at the gym, we're very transparent with how much we charge. We are expensive. We are not, we're not a cheap trainer. Like, you're not come to us for cheap training. We are top of the line. We're super professional. Like you said, you know what I mean? Like, I'm never late. I'm never going to cancel. And then on top of that, I have a set of skills that I've been building for the last 36 years. I've been golfing for a really long time. I've been a fitness fanatic for a really long time. I've been a personal trainer for almost 11 years. There's value in that. So just being, communicating with the peers, and instead of thinking this is going to like hurt us, it's like, well, how much do you charge? It's like, I think I should charge the same. And we give each other advice on that. Like, for example, we had a new trainer at a gym that came in who was doing longer sessions. Great trainer with way more experience than the rest of us at the gym. He was doing hour-long sessions, which I do 45 now, and he was charging so much less. And we're like, what are you doing? Like, charge up. You know what I mean? We're not competition. Like, the clients that you train are not going to come train with me. It's not like that. We collaborate and we learn from each other and we communicate, and then we kind of decide, it's like, this seems like a fair amount. And that's what I'm charging right now. And then another really important thing that I've learned is that you increase your prices every single year. You know, like inflation is a thing. I spend money learning, going to classes, going to courses so I can be a better trainer than you. That is not free. So don't be afraid to raise your prices. Most of the times clients will not have a problem with it. And if they do have a problem with it, then that's fine. Then maybe they're not the right client for you. Again, you know, you kind of need to learn to know when you need to move on from a client and just trust the fact that you think your time is worth more than that.
When you went out on your own, what did you not plan for? What happened unexpectedly that you did not necessarily think would happen? What'd you learn from that?
Well, you know, as a trainer in South Florida, as a senior trainer in South Florida, you know, we're in Boca, which is a very wealthy area. I moved down in August, which is like right at the beginning of season. And then, you know, I was working for somebody else at the time, but I got busy so fast. It was amazing. Season is amazing. Like, I love working. I love being busy. You know, sometimes I have 13 clients a day and I'm exhausted and I haven't even had any food. And I'm not even like allowed to complain. I love it. And then season ends and most of them leave. And then all of a sudden I have 2 clients a day and I am not necessarily strapped for money. I have enough money, I make enough money, but just psychologically, the not having that much work always hits me really hard. You know, it's not a financial thing. It's not that I don't make enough money. It's not that I don't have enough money to pay my bills. It's just that the switch from being so busy to not having anything to do is really, really hard. Every single year for the last 10 years, I've struggled with this. But the extra amount of time that I did have during my first few years was what motivated me to start Fit Golfer Girl. I was like, well, I have nothing to do. My clients are all gone. Well, let's make something out of all this free time. And that's why I was able to build that. Do I think that I would have been able to build such a great brand if I was working 13-hour days every day? Absolutely not. So a part of it, you know, I do have to be thankful for that. But that seasonality I did not plan for. And that really sucked.
I see the correlation with our medical practice because we lose now, I would say about 30% of our patients in the summertime. I've spent the last couple of years trying very hard to work to garner a larger patient population that is more local all of the time as opposed to transient or those snowbirds. And even when we have snowbirds, they will fly down on occasion and at least they can see the doctor that 1 week that they happen to be in town in July. So it works for us. But it does hurt your ego. I have doctors who finally filled their schedule in season and then August rolls around. And they're like, what happened? What happened? I hate August and September. I do. I hate August and September. We always go on vacation in September. I have to. I have to get away.
No, it's true. And, you know, like I consider myself to be like a high earning personal trainer, but it's not even about the money. It's just like I love training people. I love working with people. I love feeling busy. I love looking at my schedule and I have a busy day. It's just sucks, you know, and I still deal with it and I probably will always deal with it. I know everybody tells me, including yourself, it's like, maybe that's your time to rest. And I'm like, well, I know. I understand, but also it's still hard.
So what's your next step?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because I was thinking that perhaps my next step in order to have something to do during those slow months was to perhaps launch an online fitness program. I already have a big enough audience that I could do that. But then in the last few months, I've been actually questioning that. You know, once again, I am my own boss, so I can make my own rules and I'm not always chasing shareholder value. I'm my own shareholder. And I feel like I've grown and a part of me maybe doesn't necessarily want to work more. Maybe I want to work less and maybe learn to enjoy the time that I have free. And maybe I don't need to be, launching an online golf fitness program. Maybe I just need to learn how to enjoy the off season, go see my parents, hang out with family, travel, do better things instead of just trying to occupy every second of my time with productivity. You know, you and me have talked about.
I was just going to say, you and I are the same person.
God,
I'm taking an art class.
I love that. I mean,
I found a hobby.
I feel so guilty when I'm not accomplishing something, and that's something I've gotten so much better at this in the last maybe year or two. So maybe instead of trying to chase more or more money or more busy or more clients, I just need to reframe my brain and just learn to rest and appreciate the rest and travel. And it's easier said than done, trust me, because I'm saying this out loud and I'm like, yeah, right. You're going to freak out when summer comes around. But I'm still trying to make that decision. It's like, maybe there's no next. Maybe I need to work on myself and my brain and realize that we all need to rest. And, it's a good time to go see my parents and, just make quality memories and be lucky that I have a career where I can take so much time off and still be financially well.
Carolina, I will remind you of that, because that's what I say to my team. It requires my entire community. I'm like, when August rolls around, please remind me how I feel now.
Yep. I love it.
So are you ready for a lightning round?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I want to learn more. I keep wanting to learn more. What's the best business decision you ever made?
Leaving my finance job.
What's the business mistake you'll never repeat?
It's a good one. That's a good one.
See, you just proved that I don't give you questions ahead of time.
Probably undervaluing myself.
What's a non-negotiable value that guides what you do every day?
Providing value.
And one metric you never stop tracking. And the reason I ask you this is because of your finance background. What's that one metric, not health-wise, what's the one metric on the business side that you never stop tracking?
That's a good one. I mean, I track, obviously, revenue, and I track number of sessions. And those are easy to track. But as I've grown as a person, I'm starting to track other things. You know what I mean? I'm starting to track what am I thankful for? What are the good things that I have? And this is funny because that's definitely not who I am as a person. If you knew me, if you know me, but if you guys listening knew me, you know that that's definitely not who I am. But I'm trying to make active changes to change my mind and be more appreciative of the things that I have. And it's really hard to track those things. They're really not measurable, but I think we need to do a better job with that. Instead of seeing the glass half empty, seeing it half full.
Well, I've been doing that, and sometimes I start meetings that way. If I'm really down, I will start in my mind just rambling off everything I'm grateful for. I will literally spend 60 seconds in my mind and do that. So that is measurable.
Yeah.
But I have to, because it brings the positive emotions and feelings and aura around me when I enter a meeting. So I'm not going in with my crazy Meredith energy sometimes.
Yeah.
What's one habit that you keep consistent?
Well, speaking of what we were speaking about, recently, in the last, maybe since August of last year, I started doing something. Every morning when I get in the car, I thank the universe for everything I have. And trust me, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a manifester. I'm not that person. But I decided to change things up. It's like, obviously what I was doing before wasn't working. So why don't we switch things up? So I get in the car and I'm like, good morning, universe. This is nighttime. I'm still half asleep. The sun hasn't even come out yet.
It's 4:30 in the morning.
And I list everything that I'm thankful for, from my parents and my boyfriend, to my clients, to my medication, to my favorite type of Prosecco. Everything that I can think of, I thank the universe for. So that's been a really good habit.
So what's one piece of advice for someone who wants to leave an employed model and go independent?
Do it. Just do it. But get ready to work your ass off. But because you're going to be working for yourself, it's all going to be worth it. It's easy to let an employer down, but it's hard to let yourself down. So do it and don't let yourself down.
You live and breathe healthcare every single day. You do work in the healthcare industry, not the sick care industry. And you also, between my husband and me, I think you see us at least 4 days a week. So you have to hear about healthcare because, I have to have good conversation to bring to my team every day. If you could create one change within our American healthcare system, what would it be?
Well, I mean, this is going to sound super cliche, but work on prevention, make people understand that obviously there's some diseases that you cannot prevent, like, for example, a lot of the rheumatology diseases, but there's a lot of stuff that you can prevent by having a balanced diet, exercising, having good mental health, doing therapy, just focusing on your relationships. There's so much you can do to prevent the diseases. And as much as you can do to do it. Like invest in yourself, do it for yourself.
Carolina Romero, thank you for joining me on Working Healthcare.
Thank you, Meredith.
If this conversation hit home or made you think a little differently, don't keep it to yourself. Share the episode, tag a friend, or post about it on social media. Connect with me on LinkedIn to keep the conversation going in between episodes. If you've got a question, an episode idea, or someone you think I should feature, send me a note at meredithhirsch.com. Thank you all for the 5-star reviews. They help more listeners find the show. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Tune in weekly as we explore the inner workings of healthcare, because you can't fix what you don't understand.